Welcome to the order entry class, order entry tips and techniques. Today I'm going to take you through a few tips and techniques that will help you get the most out of order entry. These tips and techniques will be available in S2K Enterprise for hard goods, S2K Enterprise for food, and S2K Enterprise for pharma. Okay, so I'm just going to take you through a few of these options to kind of give you a feel for some of the things you can do with order entry that you may not know about. We're going to go through a list of them here, linking orders to a campaign and opportunity, going to show you the promotions window, how to set up promotions, going to show you how to use rapid order entry, sales history price checking, order guides. There's some really cool things you can do with order guides. We're going to go through the new complementary items option, where we've made complementary items mandatory as well as optional. Going to talk about non-stock special orders, going to talk about future orders and standing orders, and just go through the return processing. Okay. All right, so let's start off with linking orders to a campaign. All right, this is a nice feature. If you're running any campaigns in your company and want to just see the sales that may have come from that campaign, what you'll do is you'll go over to CRM and you'll first set up the campaign. Okay, this is just a campaign ID number, the description of the campaign. You can put in a budget amount and the channel that you used for this campaign. But what you will be doing here is during order entry, on the first screen, you're going to see a field to the left there that says campaign. And you can search on it. You can link the campaign that you're running to this sales order. All right, and then you would enter your items, okay, and then you would end the order, okay. And what it has is over in sales analysis, there is a campaign analysis inquiry that allows you to go into each campaign and see how effective it's been. You can see the date the campaign was running, the start date and the end date, number of orders you got from that campaign, number of invoices, and the total value of the orders and invoices that you got. All right, and then you can drill into, if you want to see the specific orders or you want to see the invoices, you can drill in and you can see, all the different orders that you got. You can review it by country or territory or state or sales rep to see, where did these orders come from that were related to the campaign. Okay, so nice option that you can use for maybe some of the things that you're running. The other thing you can do is link orders to an opportunity. All right, so in CRM, we have the ability for sales reps to create opportunities. And sometimes a sales rep wants to link a quote or an order to an opportunity. So how you would do that is over in the CRM system. So this is Smart Center, and I'm signed on as a sales rep. So I'm using the S2K Salesforce profile. I'm going to go into CRM, and I'm just going to set up an opportunity related to an account, a customer. Right, so I can set up opportunities for leads or customers, right? So I'm going to go into accounts, I'm going to click on the accounts, and now I'm in the account card, so to speak, and I'm going to click on the plus on the top and say create new opportunity. All right, so maybe I'm talking to this customer and they have a new location that's opening up, so there's a potential for some new business there that I just want to track, maybe any quotes or any orders I get related to this opportunity. Right, so I create this opportunity. Internally, VAI is going to, assign it a opportunity number, and then basically what you do is over in order entry, just like the campaign, you can see there's a field there for opportunity number. Right, so you could search on that, and it'll bring up that opportunity, new store opening. Okay, you can see the system assigned an opportunity number to it, and then you can just link that opportunity to this order or quote. Doesn't matter. You can have as many orders or as many quotes as you want linked to the opportunity. And then what happens when you do this is back over on the opportunity in CRM, okay, underneath, when you're actually drilling into the opportunity, you're going to see a listing of all the orders or quotes that are attached to that opportunity. Okay, so how people might use this is they have a big job, maybe it's a something that's running, and they just want to track everything that they're getting from it, whether it be a quote or an order. So how the sales reps could do this is they could, convert a quote to an order and then come in here and then also close the opportunity. So you'd get the CRM reporting that you won the opportunity, and then you'd also have the ability to note that the quote was won as well, and you could close the quote. Okay, so that's linking an opportunity to a order or quote. Okay, promotions window. All right, so the promotions window is a nice option. It really gives your customer service people the ability to inform customers about current promotions. And what drives this window is over in customer orders in the custom pricing. It's the tables that mention promotional price by item, or promotional price by division class, or promotional price by preferred vendor. Okay, those are the tables that are going to feed the promo window. Right? So as an example here, if I wanted to set up a promotional price for an item, I would come in here, I would put the item that I want to have this promo for. I can set a date and time as well. I could say that this is good for, a few days or a month or a year, whatever it may be. I could also tie the promotion to a specific customer or to a price group. If I don't put in a customer number or a price group number, then it's going to be, the promotion is going to be available for everyone. Okay, so basically how it works is you hit enter, and then you can set up your promotional pricing, right? And it can be quantity breaks. So you can see here that I'm saying at a quantity of 1, it's $2.25, at a quantity of 6, it's $2.55, and a quantity of 6, it's $2.25. This table is very, very flexible. Allows you to set up promos where it might be just a discount they're getting, right? So instead of doing a hard price that I'm doing here, you could say it's a discount, and that discount can be off of the suggested list price or that customer's current price level. So you might have customers with different price levels, but across the board, you want to give a 10% discount on a product or a product line. You can do that. You also can use the markup option, where you can mark it up from any one of your costs: last, average, other, standard, sales rep, market. You can take, you can choose the cost and then choose whether it's a markup or a margin up or a cost plus a dollar value. Okay. You can do that in here. You could also just change the level. So maybe you create a special level, like level 10 is always your promo price. And you can just say, well, for this time period, it's price level 10. Okay, so you set this up, and then basically what happens is during order entry, when someone's entering an order, the promotions window is going to pop up and say, hey, there is a current promo that's running for these items. Okay, and you can see it shows if you buy 1, it's this price, and if you buy 6, it's this price. What's nice about this window is it shows the customer's current price, right? And so this is, what that customer is currently paying for that item and what the promo price is, okay? And also how many are available. So right from this window, if your customer service representative was talking to a customer, you could say, hey, did you know we have these 2 items on promo, or 1 item on promo, and different quantity breaks, and would you like one, right? And then you can just put in the quantity here, okay? So, and that would add it immediately to the order, okay? All right, the next feature we want to talk about is rapid order entry. So S2K has a lot of ways to get in an order. You can just enter in items. You can work off of a shopping list. You can work off of an order guide. You can bring orders in from sales history. But a lot of times customers might receive a fax or an email with a listing of items. Customers might know the item numbers they want to order, and they just send you a listing of quantity and item number, right? And you want to really get that in very quick, right? So one of the things that you have is rapid order entry. So in the new S2K release 6.2, it's an icon on the top. It's a little man running here for rapid order entry. You might see it in your toolbar line on an older release that says rapid order entry. Okay, and then when you click on this, you can see that it's just it's almost like a notepad where you just quickly type in the quantity and the item number. So this is a real nice quick entry program for people who might receive in a fax or an email and have a long list of items. Especially I've seen a lot of our customers who have order entry clerks that are really good with the numeric keypad, and they're just really flying through orders with the numeric keypad. it's it's a two-field entry here. It's quantity, item number, quantity, item number, quantity, item number. And then when you hit enter, the system will validate that that's a valid item. So if they actually mistyped, it'll highlight that line and say, okay, this item doesn't exist. All right. And then once you're done entering those items, you would just click on end, and all those items would be immediately added to the order. Okay, so it's a nice feature for any faxes or emails that might come in, and you want to enter that order pretty quickly. Okay, the next feature, sales history price checking. So this is a nice option that, again, maybe you don't know about. So what it is during the line item entry, okay, while you have the item on the bottom, so this is the important part. It's not after it's carried to the top, but while you're entering the item in on the bottom, your customer may say to you, hey, I didn't pay that price the last time. Okay, so what's nice about the sales history button is when you click that while the item is on the bottom, it is going to bring up a complete history of that item for that customer. So with the most recent purchase first, okay, and it's going to show you the invoices, and it's going to show you exactly what that price was for that item. So this is really nice when a customer is talking about, hey, I didn't pay that price, or can you check my price? You'll be able to say, yes, you've paid that price, going all the way back for the last, X number of purchases. Okay, so that's a nice feature. It's a nice way to, let your customers know, what their price history was on an item. Okay, order guides. Order guides, there are some really cool things that customers are doing with order guides. And I just want to highlight some of these things because order guides are a great way to segment products and give your customer service representative some visibility into different ways of selling. And let me show you what I mean by that. All right. So first things first, order guides are set up in customer orders and file maintenance. You can see there's a little section here for order guides. Okay, and let me show you how a couple of different ways that people use it. So sometimes people use it to just create a guide for what a customer should be buying. Right, so very common in food. Maybe it's a C-store, and you say, well, this convenience store should really carry these products. Right, and maybe you even categorize them for it. You should carry these these condiments, these beverages, these dry goods, these whatever paper products, and you can segment as a guide for what that type of customer might buy. Right, another guide might be, okay, a restaurant. This is products that a restaurant might buy. Okay, so that's one way to use guides. All right, and that's a very helpful feature. But I wanted to show you a couple of other things that you can use guides for that you might not realize. Okay, so one of the ways is I've seen customers set up guides for holiday items or specialty items. Okay, so they actually create a guide. So I'm going in here, I'm adding a guide called holiday items. Right, and you could categorize them as well. So if you have a bunch of these, you might want to create categories. Cups, glasses, decorations, whatever. But they create a guide, and they basically, come in here, and to list those items, they would use the search feature or type in the item numbers, and it would just add them, to the guides. Okay, so I just put any items in here in the demo, but this is a nice way that during order entry, you could say, hey, do you need any of the holiday products? Right, which might not be easily searchable in the item search window. So if you created a guide for these, your customer service representative would be able to easily see the guide, right, on the holiday products, just the holiday products. Okay, I've seen this for Halloween, I've seen this for Christmas, I've seen this for Thanksgiving and other things. Black Friday, you might have some items that you're trying to push or anything like that. I've also seen a similar guide where people have created guides for dead stock items, all right, where they're trying to push maybe some dead stock items, and they want their customer service representative to bring those up during order entry and say, hey, do you need any of these products? These products, and you could even, tie a promotion around them, but that's another feature that, way people use it, okay? Another option with guides is I've seen people use guides for critical items. So maybe there's a list of items that are very, very commonly ordered, right? And what you want to do with this is during order entry, you can review this guide and you can see if the customer is missing any critical items. And I'll show you what I mean by that during order entry, because what the system does is if a customer has an item on the order already, and then you look at the guide, you'll see in the guide that a quantity was ordered. All right, so it's a nice way to say, hey, is the customer missing any critical items? Okay. Another way I saw guides being used is almost like a kit. Let me explain this to you. So I've seen customers create a guide. One of our electrical customers created a guide for a complete, circuit breaker panel. Right? It's not necessary. They don't sell it as a kit, so they wouldn't create a kit for it, but they created a guide for it, right? So that when someone wanted to order a circuit breaker panel, they have all the different things that you might need for that panel as a specific guide. So they have the outer box, the frame, the door, the fuses, the wiring. They have everything that could possibly go with that panel as a guide, so that when the customer's ordering it, they could use the guide to say, well, do you need this? Do you need that? And it's all grouped together. So that's another nice way that you can use order guides. Okay, so let's see how this looks in order entry. Okay, so over in order entry, on the top, there's a little two notepads that it will be highlighted and says order guide. On some older releases, again, it might be a button in the middle. In food, I think it's on the bottom left-hand side. It says order by, and you can choose guide. All right. So when you choose guide, it's going to bring up a blank screen and say, which guide do you want to use? Okay. So here's where you'll do your search and say, okay, I want to use the holiday item guide. All right. And you can see that this guide will show them immediately all of those items, and they can place the order right from here. So there's an order quantity field, and they can key in those items, right from the guide. They could see if they had purchased it in the past, they could see the last quantity they bought, the last price, the current unit price, and what's available today. Okay, so a real nice, way to, enter in items. Okay, so and as soon as you hit enter, those items get added to, order entry. All right, so let's look at now those critical items and what I meant before with the guide will show you what's already on the order. Okay, so if I go back to the guide and I say, before we end this order, I just want to make sure, Mr. Customer, did you, order any of the critical items that you may need? So I'm going to click on critical items, critical guide, and you're going to see that on the order, it shows you that you already have the black ink and you already have the construction paper, because those quantities, came up immediately. And the other items are things that he has not ordered on this particular order. So this might be a nice opportunity for your customer service representative to say, hey, before we end, do you need any pencils or pocket highlighters? These are typically critical items. All right. So the other way you can use guides is you can actually link a guide to a customer. Right. So let me show you this. Over in Customer Master File, right, when you choose a customer, there is a field in the customer master file in the food packages. I think it's under the More button where you can link to the guide, right? But there's a way for you to link an order guide to a customer. So this might be the area, like I said before, where you have a C-store or you have a restaurant, and you've created a specific guide to help that, that customer place an order. Okay, and you can see one of the features that you can use here is the restrict button. And what the restrict button does, it says, I only want this customer to order off of this guide. They're not allowed to order any items that are not in the guide. Okay, so, that's a nice way to kind of do restricted items. We do have a feature for restricted items where you can create lists for restricted items, but this is just another way to do it, right? You can actually create a guide and then restrict that customer to just those items. All right, so that during order entry, if they try to order anything outside of that guide that you've created, they would say that it's restricted. Okay, so that's another feature and another way you can use guides. Okay, complementary items. So complementary items have been around for a while in S2K, right? But we actually enhanced it now with the capability to making a complementary item mandatory. So let me show you this. So over in the item master file, and this is only going to be in release 6.2. So this is a new feature that's in the new release. You have the ability now to flag a complementary item as either mandatory, suggested, or optional. Okay, so suggested and optional are kind of the same. What the difference is, suggested might bring up a recommended quantity that you should to buy with this. Optional means it's completely optional. You can add it to the order or not. All right, but mandatory is really the new feature, right? So this is the case where they might be buying something, but it's mandatory that you get this other item with it. So I'm setting up something here where you're buying a printer, but it's really mandatory that you get the ink ribbon. They kind of go together, right? So that's just something you could use it for. If you buy product A, you have to have product B. It's a mandatory complementary item. Okay, and the quantity you put in here is really a quantity ratio, right? So if they buy 5 of them, the system will recommend a 1-to-1 here and say you need to buy 5 of the, you need 5 of the complementary. Okay, you can leave that blank and then manually fill it out, but the quantity is a nice option if you want a 1-to-1 ratio there. Okay, so what happens is during order entry, all right, let's jump over to order entry. So now I'm ordering, one of those, laser printers. And as soon as I hit enter, system's going to pop up and say, hey, there is a mandatory item, complementary item. And there is also an optional one that you can, enter in a quantity for if you want to take that as well. Okay, so this is the new feature in order entry for complementary items, where we have the ability to suggest a mandatory item, which will be automatically added to the order, and then still let the user, choose optional or suggested ones. Okay, and you can see as soon as you hit enter, if I didn't take the optional one, it's going to add the mandatory one along with the original item right to the order. Okay, so that's a new feature, really nice capability that we've added for complementary items. Okay, non-stock special orders. Let's cover that. All right, there's a couple of different ways that people use non-stocks and special orders, and I just want to kind of go through the process to give you, a good understanding of how you could use this. So during order entry, you have the ability to just pre-set up non-stock items in your item master file. All right. What I mean by that is maybe it's like a 999 item that's called non-stock, and it's just pre-set up, and you're gonna just change the description each time, and track all non-stocks against a preset SKU. Right. So some customers do this by product division or class. So like if I'm looking for non-stocks, I might do a search here and say all my non-stocks are listed in division 99999. All right, and you can see maybe I have different non-stocks preset for different categories of items. Hangers, colored scissors here, construction paper, and I link the preferred vendor for those products to those special non-stock items. Right, so maybe I have the categories set up, and then what I would do here is I would say, okay, I want to order whatever item it may be, and then I would just type over the description to give my vendor exactly what I'm going to purchase here. All right, and you can see that you can have a set price that comes up. So if all these hangers are always priced the same, but you just want the user to type over the description, the price can come up, or they can override the price. All right, but the tracking of the sale will be always to this preset item number that you have preset. Okay, and then just be cognizant of that with non-stocks, the system is going to create a PO that can be linked to this order. All right, and there's a lot of nice ways you can do that. You can actually add special orders through suggested purchasing now, or you can just create individual purchase orders, separate from your replenishment buys through the purchasing system. All right, so that's one way to do non-stocks. Create a generic number, right, that may or may not have a price, and then just override the quantity. Okay. The other way to do a non-stock is over in the code field, the CD field right here. If you do a search on that, you're going to be asked for a couple of different things. Like, this is an area where we invoke certain, options. And one of them is NS, which is creating a non-stock on the fly. All right. So if I type in, and I can just type in an NS code there instead of choosing it off the, the search window here. But if I type in NS over here, the system is going to generate an item number for me, okay? Or I can enter in the actual SKU from a catalog that is a product that we don't sell that I want to build on the fly. All right, so either the system can generate the number or you can manually enter in that number, and you can see it just brings up a really generic description and allows you then to type over that description, okay, and just basically create this non-stock item on the fly. Right, so I'm going to type in, you can see here, I'm going to type over the description, special gold pen. I'm going to type in a price. I'm going to type in a cost. I'm going to note the vendor that I'm buying it from. Okay, and again, the flag would be set because it's a non-stock to create PO. All right, so the difference here between this option and the other option is that on this option, you're actually creating an item, and that the sales for this item are going to be under the specific item number that was generated for this item, okay? Not the generic item number, right? So that gives you the ability later on to say, wow, we've sold a lot of this specific product. Maybe you want to start carrying it, all right? If you do it under a generic SKU, you don't get that, detailed information that will tell you, which specific product, unless you're looking at the descriptions, what is actually selling. So this is another way to create a non-stock. All right, and then just show you how to process this. Okay, so now I have the hangers as a non-stock, and I also have the special gold pen as a non-stock. You can see that both items are on back order because we don't have them, obviously, they're non-stock. If I were to bill out this invoice, it would allow me to ship out the items that we did have in stock, and then it would create a -01 back order while I order these two non-stock items. Okay, so how you create the purchase order is over in purchasing. There is an option under daily transactions, purchase orders, to list create POs from open orders. All right, and basically it looks for any item that you had that flag turned on to create a PO. Right, so what it's going to do is it's going to say, okay, you could just run this as a report and not create the suggestion. You could maybe just want to see it first, or you can click on this option and say create the purchase order as well. And I want to actually put it onto a PO. There is another option in the suggested purchasing system that if you take that class, you'll see that you can add, special orders and, non-stocks to your replenishment buys. So some people like to do it that way, and there is an option in suggested purchasing to do that. But for this demo, I'm just going to, create a purchase order that's just, linked to those items. So when I hit enter, you're going to see if I go over to purchase order entry, I actually did a search and I brought up the purchase order that was created for that special gold pen. Okay, and if I bring that item to the bottom, you're going to see that that item is linked to that specific customer order and that line item. So when I receive in this purchase order, the system is going to automatically match it up to that customer order, to that item, and say, okay, this item, this special order has arrived. Okay, one of the nice features we have in our alerts program is, a non-stock item has come in, right? So you could, let the salesman know that the special order has come in, and the salesman can then, notify the customer, on a special order. Okay, so that's how you actually enter in the special order as well. Okay, let's take a look at future orders and standing orders and some capabilities here that you may or may not know about. Okay, so future orders is a nice way for you to enter an order where you don't want to allocate inventory right at this time. Okay, maybe it's a holiday order that they're pre-ordering product from you, okay, and you don't want to allocate the inventory at this time. Now in S2K for food, there is an option to do that right from order entry, where you say when I enter in orders, I don't allocate until I'm ready to ship. All right, so you could, in S2K for food, you have an additional option where you don't want to allocate at the time you enter the order through order entry. But for hard goods, and food could also use this as well, the future order is a way to enter in items that you don't want to allocate right away. All right, so you can enter in the order. So it looks like order entry. So when you come in here, you can see it generates a future order number. You can put in a customer PO if you want. And maybe you don't want to allocate it right now. This is also a way, as you can see here, that a customer may give you a blanket order with multiple release dates. All right, so future orders has a lot of different uses. One of them is just a way to put in a future order that's going to ship later on, and you don't want to commit your current inventory. Another thing is you could use future orders to set up a release schedule, where on specific dates they want certain quantities released. So let's take a look at both of those. Right, so when you're entering the item, right, let's do a release one first. So let's say they want 1,000 of this item, but they want it released automatically on certain dates. You would click on the ship dates option, and here's where you can enter in the specific date and quantities that they would like those items released. All right, and then what's going to happen is at the end of each day, the system will check this file and say X number of days prior to the release date. Now, when I say X number of days, that's called a days to commit field. That's a system setting that you could set in cross applications that says, I'm picking a day, 5 days before I'm ready to ship, I want the system to move this quantity over to a real order and commit my inventory. One of the options that you have with that days to commit field is the ability to set the days to commit to be equal to the vendor's lead time. So that's also a cool option that you have that says, I want to release this item based on how long it's going to take me to get it from the vendor. Right? So just in case you don't have it in stock, right, you would have the ability to bring it in and still ship it out, if it was out of stock. Okay, so that's another option with the days to commit on when these releases will be moved over into the real order entry and actually commit against your inventory. Okay, so when you hit enter here, you'll see it just really creates individual line items that the system's going to pull off individually and move these over to order entry. Okay, the other way to do a future order is you don't have to necessarily put a date in, or you can put a cancel date in on when this is the last time that they're going to be able to pull from this inventory. So this might be a case where you have a blanket quantity, and then the customer is going to call you and give you individual releases. So they said, I'm going to commit to 1,000. Right, and you want that quantity to be reflected in suggested purchasing, because one of the options in suggested purchasing is do you want suggested purchasing to look at future orders? And if you do, how far out do you want to go? Do I want to look at future orders for the next couple of months, the next 6 months, the next year? So you can say, when I'm doing my buying, I want to make sure that I include the quantities that may be set up in future orders so that I have the inventory available, when that release date, comes in. Okay, so in this case, I'm just going to put in maybe a cancel by date and say, this is good until this day. All right. And then at the end, when you end the future order, we do have the option to send the customer a confirmation of this blanket order or this future order. Okay, so they can reference it when they're actually, if they're doing a blanket, they can reference this blanket number when they're doing the release. Okay, on the ones where we set this specific release dates to, those will automatically get released on those dates and times. All right, so let's take a look at how this looks. So over in order entry, when you're placing an order for that customer, you can access their future orders. right? So if you click on future orders, you can see he only has one in here right now, right? So I'm going to click on that future order, and you can see there's the ones I set up with the release dates. So maybe, there was a release date, but he wants one of those releases immediately, right? He says, I can't wait till, 12/1 here. I need the product now. You could select the quantity, and then it won't be released on that date. It would be released immediately. On the last one, which was kind of the blanket, you could just say, okay, what is the quantity you want to release right now? All right, and enter in that quantity. All right, and what's going to happen is as soon as you enter in that quantity, the system's going to reduce, the remaining balance that he has, 900 now to still, ship against that, that blanket. Okay, so that's how you can use future orders, and obviously that item will get added to the order. In this case, I didn't have it, fully in stock, but that item, right from that future order screen will get added to your order entry line item detail. Okay, so let's take a look at standing orders and show you a nice feature that maybe you don't know about, that how you can use standing orders. So standing orders is kind of like a future order, but it's just an order that's standing out there. Maybe it's a very common order that you want to use that the customer will be able to just copy into order entry, right, at any time. And that's the generic use for standing orders. But what we've added to S2K is the ability for you to create a standing order from an S2K quote. All right, and let me show you how that's what I want to show you here today as a tip. So during order entry, you could be entering in a quote. All right, so let's say you're building this quote for this customer, and you enter in all the items that are on this quote, and you give them your special pricing. And what you're going to see is when you end the quote, there's a new button that says, I'd like to create a standing order out of this quote. Okay, so why would you do this? Well, if you know S2K, if you're doing quotes through S2K, when you convert the quote to the order, you will lose the original quote, right? So when you convert a quote to an order in S2K, if you just do that, basically the Q becomes an O, and you kind of lose the visibility of the quote. So even if they didn't take all the items off the quote, you kind of lost the visibility of the quote, right? So by doing this and saying, I want to create a standing order off of this, you'll always have in the standing order file what you quoted in entirety, originally, right? So you're going to see when you click this button, it's going to ask you, do you want to cancel the quote and create the standing order so you don't even want to have the quote, or do you want to keep the quote, right, that you have, but also just create a standing order so that I don't lose what I originally quoted? All right, so if I'm going to say no, don't cancel the quote after creating the standing order, and it's going to basically tell me now that the standing order has been created from the quote. Okay, I've seen some people use this as a reference where if they're quoting, maybe there's multiple customers quoting the same job, they want to use that standing order as just reference for them for how the first person possibly quoted it, right? So there's a lot of nice things you can do with this, but its idea here was for people that don't want to lose, the original quote, the entirety of the original quote, moving it over to a standing order is a nice way to keep that. So if I go over to standing orders now, you're going to see that I'm just going to bring up that standing order number, and it will keep the PO number, everything that you had off of that original quote, and you can see all those items were copied over here. Right, so all those items as I quoted them have now been moved to a standing order. All right, so that's a cool option that is available if you don't want to lose the detail of an original quote. Okay, so lastly, let's take a look at return processing. All right, so return processing, just want to show you some capabilities that you may or may not know about. Obviously, during order entry, we process credit memos, orders, quotes, and returns through the same, order entry system. All you basically do is just change the order type, that this is going to be a return. Okay, and then when you're doing a return, you will be flagged for a reason code. It can be a reason code, a credit cause, and a credit person, who approved this. So you could use all three of those fields. You can, just use one of them, which is the reason code. That's a setting in the cross apps on, what different things do you want to capture for a return. So I have all three turned on, but the main one is the credit reason, right? So why are they returning? And you can see that with the reason code, you can determine whether or not you want to update inventory. Whether this inventory, when you process this return, will come back into inventory. All right. So not to get too deep into the warehousing side of this, but what really happens in a lot of our customers, they might set up a separate warehouse location that the returns come back into, or they might set up like a quarantine bin that returns come into, right? So that when the return comes in, it goes to this quarantine bin, and that really helps them control the inventory and review the disposition of the product before they move it into saleable stock again. Okay. You also could say that it's damaged but non-returnable, so that would not update your inventory as well. Okay. So I just choose damaged, and now I'm coming over to my line items. All right, so here, one of the things that you can do is if you want to give them credit and have the pricing linked to the customer order that they're returning off of, you could use the sales history button to reference the invoice that they're returning the item from. Okay, so rather than just free typing in a return quantity and item number, because you might ask the customer for what invoice are you returning this item from? And you could actually search for the invoice up on the top, or search for the item and then tell them what invoice it was on. All right, so there's a couple different options here. So basically he might say, well, was the last order that I placed, was these come up in last order sequence. So I might click on that order and say, okay, all right, here's what you got. What are you returning? Okay, and he might say, okay, I'm returning the construction paper, one package of construction paper, or you can go through this. Right? So what happens when you're processing a return, just want to let you know, is that when I key in a quantity here, let's say he's returning one package of the construction paper, all right, the system is going to reduce the returnable quantity then, right, to say that, okay, you've ordered two, so you only have one more you can return against this invoice at that price. Right? So that's a nice way the system controls a customer trying to return an item that maybe they got on special, but now the price changed, and you want to control that the pricing matches. The other thing you saw that popped up quickly, let me just go back, was it was asking me, do I want to reprice this return with the current price? So most likely you wouldn't. You would say, no, don't reprice this return. I want to give them credit for the price they paid, the $9, in this case, the 91 cents, right? So, but what this does, when you choose it off of that sales history, you're going to see that that return line was linked to that customer order in that invoice. So it's referencing, for reference purposes, that it was returned off of that invoice, and it also reduced the quantity of the returnable item quantity off of that invoice. Okay, so just some other things to note. We have some nice options with our BOGOs, buy one, get one free. And we've worked into our process where if a customer tries to return like the free item and get credit for it, the system knows that that is a BOGO item. That was a get one free item. So, they're not going to get any credit, for returning a promotioned item like that. Okay, so one other thing that I just want to mention is that when you're doing a return, a lot of times people ask me about, well, can I charge a restocking fee? Right? And I'll just show you how to do that. So yes, you could do restocking fees a couple of different ways, right? So one way is to use the additional charges feature, where you click on additional charges and you might have it pre-set up that for returns there is a restocking fee. And just note that when you type in a restocking fee here, if you want it to be a negative amount, you got to put in, in this case, this is a very low priced item. So I'm doing 20 cents negative, and that will reduce the credit amount. Okay, so this is a nice option if you want the restocking fee to be a dollar amount. All right, so because we don't allow a percentage here, this is a dollar amount restocking fee, and it's manually typed in by the by the user. Okay, so how you set these up, and I'll give you your other option for percentages in a second, but how you set these up are over in cross apps, in interfaces, over in customer orders, right? There's an option for miscellaneous charges. Okay, so I'm sorry, there's an option for charges. This is the button. And when you click on charges, you can see here's where you can set up these additional fees. So for orders, there may be, add-ons, but for returns, which in R, you might have a restocking fee. And you can tie these to general ledger accounts, which is nice. Okay. And then, when you enter these fees, these can be positive or negative amounts that you want, on certain orders. Okay. All right. So that's just, a couple of your options for doing that. The other way is if you didn't want it to be a dollar amount, but you wanted it to be a percentage. So you're saying, well, there's a 10%, stocking fee. How you would do that is you would go back to the header. So you would click back and go back to the header screen and just use the discount field, right, to add a discount against this return, which in essence is doing a restocking fee as a percentage. So in this case, I'm saying a 10%, a restocking fee. And what you're going to see is the system would automatically then look at the material item and create a 10% discount, which is going to reduce the amount of credit they get. Okay, so that's how you would do a restocking fee against the return as a percentage. Okay, so that's it. So those are just some of the tips and techniques that I wanted to review with you today. Hopefully you learned something new that you can take back to your office and invoke into your order processing. If you have any questions about any of these capabilities, be sure to attend the Ask the Expert session at 4 p.m. This is going to be covered in the customer service area. So 4 p.m. Customer service, ask the experts. We're happy to answer any questions that you have on any of the things that you saw here in this presentation. Thank you.